We're back with another episode of MacStories Unwind. Today's episode is brought to you by Listen Later. I'm John Voorhees, and I've got Federico Viticci with me. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. You said that as it's a surprise that you have me with you.
I know. And I also said it as though you're here in the room with me, but you're not. You're not. I'm just here by myself.
I'm not.
Unfortunately, because it's almost WWDC, and you will unfortunately can't make it this year, but I will be out in California. I'm kind of working on my packing list and figuring out what I'm going to bring with me, and getting excited for, seeing the developers that we write about all year, and getting and meeting some club members, hopefully, and some MacStories readers. I mean, everybody. I like, if you run into me while you're out in California, say hello, because I'll be around, and I like to say hello to people.
Yeah, that's a good plan. Let me ask you, where is your packing checklist stored?
I do not have one. I never do a packing checklist, Federico. I fly by the seat of my pants, and when I forget things, I just go out to a store and buy them. Things like toothpaste or whatever.
Well,
usually what happens is that stresses Jennifer out so badly that she makes a packing list for me at some point and texts it to me, and then I do double check against her list.
I see.
It's a kind of.
I was thinking that maybe you had like a checklist in your task manager or something, but you don't. Interesting. I'm sure you will detail your travel gear somewhere soon. So.
Stay tuned.
Looking forward to that. We have updates to the MacStories Unwind playlist that we shared last week.
Yes.
With MacStories Unwind listeners. Now, in theory, we have updates because just before recording this, I told John, did you see my songs? And you said, no, I don't see your songs. So we are, of course, immediately running into these syncing problems with Apple Music, where I see a version of the playlist and you see another on your device.
Yes.
So
I don't know what to tell you. Hopefully there are new songs on there for people. And actually, Federico, when I look on my iPhone, I do see it. The only place I don't see it is on my Mac. And so, the fact that music doesn't work quite right on the Mac, I think most of the people who listen to the show probably know that's true. And maybe you're going to have to listen to this one on your phone or your iPad or something. But there are new songs there. A couple from Federico, a couple from me.
Yeah, there's also one of my I think one of my favorite songs of the year that I'm going to mention shortly in my music pick this week. And yeah, there's something from John, and there's also something from a new artist that I didn't know before called Fila that I'm also going to mention in a few minutes, because this is all related to a story that I published as an Automation Academy for Club Plus and Premier members, all about Marvis and my custom setup that I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. But yeah, you will see those songs at the bottom, I guess, of the shared playlist that you can find in Apple Music. Before we talk about our picks, John, we wanted to remind people that we launched 2 brand new MacStories podcasts earlier this week, NPC and Comfort Zone.
Yes, we did. NPC, it stands for Next Portable Console, and it's a show about the games we take with us, co-hosted by you and me and Brendan Bigley. And it's a fun show. We have our first episode out as this episode of Unwind goes out. If you've enjoyed kind of our video game discussions here, you will probably like that show a lot too. We will continue probably to make recommendations about video games here on Unwind, because NPC is really more about hardware. It's about the revolution in handheld gaming, whether it's retro handhelds or Windows PCs that you can take with you. It's the whole gamut of all that stuff, Android, iOS, everything that you can do handheld. And we launched Comfort Zone, which is all about getting out of your comfort zone with technology, hosted by Nilian, who's one of our writers, and Chris Lawley and Matt Birchler. And the 3 of them are going to be bringing new things to the show every week on Thursdays, where they've tried something new, whether it's like technology or software or a workflow, whatever it happens to be, maybe an automation. And just try to get out of their comfort zone and try something new. And then at the end of each episode, they challenge each other to get out of their comfort zone with a challenge, which should be a lot of fun. And it's kind of the kind of thing that I think a lot of listeners will enjoy kind of playing along with at home, so to speak, and expanding their horizons along with the hosts of the show as well.
Yeah, and Comfort Zone is going to be the first show in the MacStories family of podcasts that has both a traditional audio feed, it's a regular podcast, but it's also on YouTube with a
Yes.
video component where you can watch the weekly episodes, since MPC is going to be released every 2 weeks, sort of alternating with Ruminate on Tuesdays on MacStories. But Comfort Zone is going to be a weekly show. And so you can listen in your podcast client of choice as any other regular podcast with an RSS feed, or you can watch it on YouTube. So you can add that video context, if you want to, for example, see a particular device that one of the hosts is using, for example, for a challenge, you can watch the video. And these videos are part of the also brand new, we launched a bunch of things this week.
Lots of things.
The videos are part of the brand new MacStories YouTube channel. Something that I appreciate about the YouTube channel is the username. It's MacStories09, as if for 2009, when the year that MacStories launched officially in April 2009. So that's a fun little detail that I appreciate in the username. And obviously, this is going to be we're new to YouTube and we have big plans for it. And I think it goes without saying that you can expect more experiments along the lines of podcasts. There are both audio and video available on YouTube, and maybe even something more. As time goes on and we familiarize ourselves with YouTube, there's maybe an opportunity for us to do more video content, sort of complementing what we do at MacStories. Because the thing is, I love writing, I love text too much, and I'm never going to give it up. But there are some things I feel like that are best conveyed sometimes using video.
Yes.
And we felt that it was, we're just about 10 years late to the whole YouTube thing.
We are.
And it was maybe time to start doing some video, using video as an additive, sort of way to complement what we do at MacStories.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And yes, it's been a long time coming, but we take our time and we make sure we do it right. And I think we'll be doing it right. And it's a great time now to subscribe to the channel because you're getting in at the ground floor. It's not like heavy volume yet. You'll get your Comfort Zone video every week, but there'll also be other stuff from time to time as well. Federico, I do want to tell you a little story that's relevant to NPC, because just before we recorded, I went down to my local post office because you and Brendan know that I have been dying to get my hands on my Anbernic RG35XXSP.
That is the full name. Yeah,
it is. And it's essentially, it's a retro handheld for doing emulation that looks a lot like a Game Boy Advance SP. So it's the Game Boy SP basically. And I've been really excited to get this. I've had it on order for over a month now at this point, I think. And you and Brendan got yours much earlier than me. I think you got yours first, and then a couple of days later, Brendan got his in New York. And I was stuck still waiting. I don't know if it's because I was a little slow to pull the trigger to order, or if it's because I got a different color than you guys. But whatever it happens to be, mine was taking way too long. And we've actually already recorded episode 2 of that show. And one of the things we're going to talk about is this Anbernic device. And I was very sad during the episode because you and Brendan had a lot to say. And I knew I would have a lot to say too, but not yet because I still didn't have it. Well, yesterday, finally, I got a notification in Parcel, the wonderful iOS app for tracking your packages. It said, your package has been delivered to your mailbox. And I thought, oh, wonderful. Ran out to the mailbox. We have like a communal mailbox space in this condominium complex. Turned the key, looked inside, and there was nothing.
Oh, no.
Yes. And this has happened. Well, this has happened to me before, and I think it says more about our post person than it does about anything else. Because I've had situations where that has happened, and I've waited patiently, and a couple of days later it turns up. But I can't afford to be patient because I'm going to WWDC, and I want to take this with me, and I have to set it up with some games. So I walked down to the post office today and asked. And I gave them the tracking number. The tracking number is literally the longest tracking number I have ever seen. The U.S. Postal Service does have long tracking numbers. This was double that. This was probably 30 numbers in a row. Wow. So they asked me to write it down on a Post-it, which I did, which getting that correct was hard. And they went in the back, they looked for it, and they said, yes, it says here that it's been delivered. We're going to have to talk to your post. Basically what they think happened is they didn't put the key. They have special boxes for packages, and they probably didn't put the key in my post box, or they put my package in someone else's mailbox. So they are looking into it and going to give me a call, maybe even while we record, to tell me what has happened to this device that is shipped all the way from China, made it within mere feet of my house, and I still don't have.
Oh my God.
Yes. So
somebody in your building is currently playing with an RG35XXSP.
They're probably like, "What is this thing? I don't even know."
They're
what
listening
this is.
to they googled RG35XXSP, MacStories, and MPC came up, and they're listening to you, the rightful owner of the device, listening to a conversation about it, and they're having the time of their lives playing Zelda Minish Cap with a GBA ROM or something.
That's one of the first games I will probably play too. I love Minish Cap.
I am so sorry. I am so sorry that it was almost there, and then it was not.
I've got a couple of more days to track it down, so hopefully it will get here before I run out of time to get it set up. But I'm hoping I'll get it, and I'll be able to talk about it a little bit for episode 3 of NPC, which will be out, I guess, a couple of weeks after WWDC.
Oh man, I'm so sorry. Fingers crossed it comes up somewhere.
I know. This has come all the way from China, and you know how it is when it goes through one of these services in China, like AliExpress or whatever it happens to be. It just takes forever and has to clear customs on both ends. And mine started up in New York and then worked its way down to North Carolina, and now it's sitting somewhere in this general vicinity.
Okay.
This episode of MacStories Unwind is brought to you by Listen Later. Listen Later helps you get through that huge stack of articles you've been saving. I mean, let's face it, the web is a big place, and there's always something cool to read that you might have time for, or maybe you won't. But with Listen Later, you could actually get through a lot more than if you were just using a reading app, because Listen Later lets you listen to your articles too. Listen Later combines the power of podcasts and AI. Simply send Listen Later a link to an article, and its AI converts it into narration using a natural AI voice. The service works with text from images, PDFs, and other text documents too, and you can translate into other languages. Each article becomes an episode of your very own personal Listen Later podcast that you can access from any podcast app. It's really terrific. I've tried it, and when I get way behind, it's what I do. I take a bunch of my articles, I send them to Listen Later, and then I listen to them in Apple Podcasts. I'll be doing that on the way to WWDC this year. It's perfect because it lets you listen to articles while you're driving, on a long walk, exercising, or simply hanging out. Best of all, by converting your articles into audio, Listen Later greatly expands the time that you can spend reading and getting through that queue. And with Listen Later, you'll never spend more than you need because the service works on a credit system. You buy credits, and when you use them up, you can reload your credits, either manually or automatically. It's really easy. How much you spend is completely up to you. Visit listenlater.net today to learn more and sign up for free. And if you contact them by email or through their support page and mention MacStories Unwind, you'll get a 20% bonus on your first purchase of credits. It's a great deal. So go on over to listenlater.net today, try it out, and sign up. Our thanks to Listen Later for their support of MacStories Unwind. All right, Federico, we should do some picks.
Okay, do you have a pick for me?
I do. I actually sat down with my Vision Pro last night, and I know you guys talked about the Vision Pro a little bit on Connected last week, where and who's been using it and how much. And I know that you have not been using it as much, and neither has Steven. I personally, I have not been using it a ton either, but that's in large part, because I've really been digging into the 11-inch iPad Pro and just been busy with other stuff that really required me to be using my Mac, like, editing podcasts and dealing with that stuff. But I did sit down last night to watch the immersive video Parkour, which is the second episode in Apple's Adventure series. And it follows 3 young guys who look, like they're maybe in their mid to late 20s, who are doing parkour in and around Paris, France. And it's, first of all, the photography is just absolutely stunning because there's like a lot of aerial drone footage of the city, and you get to see a lot of, the famous landmarks, but also the wide variety of architecture in Paris, which is beautiful. And these three guys who are running around the city on rooftops doing all kinds of crazy jumps and stunts and flips and all this stuff, and of course they're not tied into anything. There's no safety net for any of this. And when you're doing this in an immersive environment, oh my gosh, it was really a little bit stressful because, especially if you have any fear of heights, I do kind of, if you're really afraid of heights, I would maybe skip this one. I am a little bit afraid of heights, but it made me a little anxious, but it still was anxious in kind of a thrill ride kind of way where it was fun at the same time, like being on a roller coaster or something, because they were running across these rooftops of these old buildings in Paris. And at one point, the pinnacle of the episode, which is, maybe 15 minutes long, is they've found this particular spot that they want to jump across the span. And it's what looks like probably a very old apartment building in Paris. And you look down as you're using the Vision Pro, and you're looking into a courtyard that's maybe 6 or 7 stories below. And it's just like a stone courtyard, right? There's nothing down there but hard surfaces. And they're on these metal rooftops that have ridges every couple of feet, every 2, 3, maybe every meter or so. And they have to kind of do this running jump without tripping on these metal ridges, which stick up a fair amount, and get across to the other side and land and not fall to their death, probably. I mean, I would think that it would kill you if you fell as far as this was. And they, of course, made it. I don't think that they would release the show if the guy, somebody fell. But it was really kind of exciting to watch all three of them do it. And then it ends with them kind of running around through more mundane courtyards and other buildings around Paris where they're doing backflips and jumping off of more tame architecture. But it was really neat. I thought it was really cool. It made me want to learn a little bit more about parkour and people who do it for. I don't know if these guys describe themselves as a team, and I don't really have a feel for whether it's like a competitive sport or whether that's something that they're actually earning their living from, or whether they do other things. But it was really cool.
So is this footage from a first-person perspective?
No, it is not. It's very much filmed from the you're the camera, basically, right? You're the third-party perspective, and you're watching these three people do this all over Paris.
So do you think there was a camera person also doing the parkour with them?
Well, yeah, I think that they were up on. Yes, I do think they had a camera crew up on the rooftops. They weren't doing it. They weren't jumping the camera across these gaps, for instance. They had a camera set up on like both ends so that they could capture the guy as he jumped from one side to the other and kind of slow it down and freeze frame it and do stuff like that.
That's wild. Okay.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool.
I need to check this out. Well, thank you for the pick. I have a couple of music-related picks. The first one is a bit of a promotional thing. I published a new entry in my Automation Academy series for Club Plus and Premier members, which is related to the pick that I'm going to mention. So I described in detail the advanced setup that I created in Marvis Pro, the excellent music player for Apple Music, previous MacStories Selects award-winning app. And this is an advanced setup that I use to completely reimagine how I deal with music discovery and music recommendations in Apple Music, going beyond what the music app offers with a twist. The twist being something that I called curated discovery. The idea being that Apple Music's editorial team has been doing for many, many years now such an excellent job curating manually, sort of like these are actual humans, curating playlists that span dozens of different genres and music vibes and moods And there are so many of these playlists that are updated on a daily or weekly basis on Apple Music. And sometimes they are so hard to discover. And it's a shame because I think that the Apple Music editorial team does a fantastic job. And what I tried to do was come up with a system where I take advantage of this human curation without the effort of manually checking each of these playlists manually myself on a weekly basis. So how can I leverage Marvis? And the automation, it's a kind of automation, hence why I'm posting this in the Automation Academy. It's a different kind of automation. How can I take advantage of filters and smart rules and custom sections to let this editorial curation come to me in an automatic way? So this is what I shared in the Automation Academy this month. All this to say that when I was finalizing my Marvis setup, which by the way, you can download, there's a downloadable settings file that you can install if you want to replicate my setup, and then you can tweak it to your liking. There's a file at the end of the story that you can download. As I was refining this Marvis setup, one of the recommendations that I saw in the sections that I have sort of auto-populating with Apple Music's own recommendations was a single by Bring Me the Horizon. Now, Bring Me the Horizon is a hard rock, metalcore, sort of emo-core band that I knew from my high school days.
Okay.
And I sort of stopped paying attention to that genre for a while, and I started revisiting it more and more over the past couple of years, but I never thought to check out Bring Me the Horizon again. And so I saw that recommendation come up, and obviously that was coming either from Matt Wilkinson's playlist, which is an excellent one on Apple Music, or some of the other like breaking alternative playlists or new in rock, for example. And I saw this single, and I was like, well, Bring Me the Horizon, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Let me check this out. And John, I have been listening to this album by Bring Me the Horizon almost nonstop for the past week.
Oh, wow.
So it's called Posthuman Next Gen. It's a hard rock. It's really a combination of different genres. That's always been one of the things that sort of set Bring Me the Horizon apart from other similar bands, especially their later albums, how they've been able to sort of blend in different influences from dubstep and electronic music and R&B into the classic sort of hard rock, metalcore, emo-core template. And this album sort of has it all in a very convincing way. Look, it's not an album for you, I don't think, John. You're not into, there's a lot of screamo going on.
Yeah.
It's
not really my thing.
It's not really your thing. It is absolutely my thing.
Okay.
Specifically, the song that got me hooked on this record is Utopia. And this right now, I think, is my favorite song of the year. Everything about this song, first of all, the first thing that really sets it apart, I think, is the very 90s style, almost Siamese Dream era Smashing Pumpkins guitar riff. There's this guitar riff that is really reminiscent of that era. And then there's a lot of other elements sort of building on top of it. But Utopia, like the guitar and the bass line and the lyrics, it's a very emo song. It's sort of about self-improvement and knowing that you can get better, but you're not quite there yet. Sort of like trying to be the best version of yourself and promising somebody else that you can be the best version of yourself, even though you're not there yet, is the kind of lyrics that really resonate with me. And yeah, the rest of the album is absolutely incredible. I mean, there's a featuring with Underoath, which is another metalcore band. It's called A Bullet With My Name On, which is another really good song. I really like the other single, Strangers. I really like Lost. I absolutely love, which is, the video is actually out this week, a song called Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood. This is a very metal album.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But yeah, if you're into this sort of stuff, there's another song called N.A., which is about the singer Ollie Sykes' sort of struggle with addiction and going to rehab, which is very sort of personal song. And I hadn't listened to Bring Me the Horizon in something like 15 years or something. And this came up because somebody at Apple manually curated one of these songs into their playlists. And I'm glad that my Marvis setup, which again, if you're interested, you can go check out the Automation Academy, was able to surface it for me and lead me to this rediscovery of this old band that I knew from high school.
That's great. I really want to I want to set up something similar to what you've done because I am very much a playlist person, especially I like a lot of these curated playlists on Apple Music, but it is one of those things where you do find yourself kind of going around the horn and checking these playlists over and over again to see what's new. And that's not a great experience. I mean, I listen to them just because I like listening to them and I will run across what's new kind of organically. But I think what you've set up is sounds really cool. All right, Federico, that's a good episode. Everybody make sure that you stop by and listen to the MacStories Unwind playlist. It's really growing little by little every week, and it's a lot of fun. I'm sure you'll find some stuff in there that you enjoy. It's quite a variety, especially after Federico has added some of this metal stuff to the playlist, which I'm looking forward to trying. I mean, I'm up for trying anything new, even though I'm not a huge metal fan anyway. And to close things out today, thanks again to Listen Later for sponsoring this episode. You can find me and Federico over at MacStories.net. Don't forget to check out NPC and Comfort Zone, our two new podcasts, by going to MacStories.net/podcasts. You'll find those two there, along with 4 others. You can also find me and Federico over at Mastodon. Go to Viticci.MacStories.net or johnvorhees.MacStories.net to find us there. And we're on Threads and Instagram. Federico is at Viticci, that's VITICCI, and I'm at John Voorhees, JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.